Hello guys, what's up? This is Murtaza from A Coder's Journey. This is the next episode of my Axios in JavaScript playlist here at my YouTube channel. In the last episode, we kind of talked about, Axios in general. We talked about the benefits that it offers. I have told you before that, one of the main advantages of Axios is that it uses, promises behind the scenes. And I think that's very important. I will probably, post a playlist about promises in JavaScript, but promises are used mainly to write asynchronous code. Now, in this video, here I am in Visual Studio Code, and I want to start, showing you guys how to, use Axios. Now, basically, I have created a folder on my drive, right? The title of the video, the title of the folder is episode 2, which I will probably change to episode 3 because this is the third video in this playlist. I've got an index HTML file, right? A very bare bone HTML file, which I will fill with some, code here. And then I've got my JavaScript file, which I will use to start coding, the Axios part. So this is the body tag, right? So I can put my HTML content here if I want, and then I can put my content in JavaScript here, right? If I want, I can, for example, make a reference to this JavaScript file. Let's do that right now. I'm going to say a script, and then I'm going to say src, and then I'm going to say app.js, right? Okay, then. So this is the reference, right, to my JavaScript file, to my app.js, right? And here I will put in my Axios, script. So in order to start using Axios in your front-end applications, one of the easiest ways is to, use a CDN. So I'm gonna close this tag here, right? And I'm gonna grab this address, and then I'm gonna paste it here. So this is the CDN that I'm gonna use, jsdeliver.net, in order to be able to use Axios, and I'm gonna use the minified version, right, of this library. I can also format my code if I want, format my document, right? And then I'm gonna go to my JavaScript application in order to start using Axios to make HTTP requests. So in order to start using Axios, one of the first things that I can do is to use Axios and then use the get method of Axios to send a get request to an API, right? So the API that I am using in this tutorial is a public API that you can use, JSON placeholder, right? So basically you can send a get request to this API and send and receive a response, right? Now, because I have told you before that Axios uses promises behind the scenes, and when it comes to using promises, I have not, posted any videos as of now about using promises in JavaScript, but I will probably create a playlist. When you want to use a promise in your JavaScript application, a promise, as the name suggests, is a promise, right? It is something that will probably or hopefully fulfilled in the future. So this get request, right, returns a promise. So it returns a promise object, which when successful, we can handle using a then method. So I have got, a code snippet here. This then part means that whenever a successful response is returned from this, get method, this get function, this promise, the function returns a promise. If the promise is fulfilled, if it is successful, do this part. If there is an error, do this part. So basically in the then part, I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to receive a response, right? If the promise is fulfilled successfully, I am using an arrow function here. And then basically what I want to do is to console log the response. So I'm going to say response, and then I'm going to say response.data. So in order to get to the data, to the real data, I'm going to say response and then data. So this is for the happy path, right? It is used when you want to, let's say, how about prettier, right? It is used when you want to handle the successful fulfillment of the promise. Now, when an error happens, I'm going to say an error, right? And then I'm going to say, you know what? If there is an error, I'm going to cancel like that error as well. So I'm going to say error. So this is the, I need a comma here. This is the simplest form of using Axios to make a GET request to this endpoint to get a response, right? So if the response, if the promise is fulfilled, right, I'm gonna cancel like the data of that response, else I'm gonna get an error and I'm gonna, you know, make a console like statement using that error. And of course, I've got a reference to my app.js in my HTML file, and now all I need to do is to open up that HTML file using my browser. So here I am in my browser. I have opened the file, the HTML file, index.html, right? And then I'm going to press F12 to bring on the, you know, DevTools. I'm in the console tab, and as you can see, you know, when the page loads, you can see the object that is returned from that endpoint. So I have received an object, right? And we've got a title, we've got an ID, we've got a user ID, and other, you know, the prototype object. Now, if I want, I can, you know, make a request to an endpoint that doesn't exist to see if I get an HTTP you know, request, a 404 HTTP response. I mean, now, give me a second. I will move back to Visual Studio and I will make some changes. So in Visual Studio Code, I'm going to change, for example, this endpoint to something that doesn't exist, right? And I'm going to save the file. I'm going to move to my browser again. In my browser, I'm going to refresh, and as you can see, it says the GET request to this, you know, endpoint returns a 404 or not found. So this means that you know, your request, your Axios request is working according to the way that we expect, right? It is using promises, and then we've got that console log, right? The error, and then we've got the error that is returned when we want to, after we make that HTTP request, HTTP GET request. This is the response, the 404 response that we get, and this is the console log statement that I made in Visual Studio Code. So basically, this is the simplest, you know, example that I could give you guys about using Axios to make a GET request to an endpoint, and then it's, as I told you, this GET function returns a promise, and then I'm handling that promise using the then and the catch part. If the promise is fulfilled successfully, the then part will handle the response that we get from the server, and if it fails, this catch part will, you know, kick in and handle the error. This was it for this video. Stay tuned for the next video. In the next video, I will, you know, dig a little bit deeper. I will give you more involved examples about how to use Axios in your applications. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give this video a thumbs up, a like. That will keep me motivated. This will also help the channel. Subscribe to our channel, to a coder journey, and also share this video with one of your friends, right? At least one of your friends. Stay tuned for the next video. Until later, bye-bye.